Hey there, hi there, ho there, hello there, and welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we bring you the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. And certainly with the fall sports underway and rolling now, had some very exciting moments in this past week to discuss. In the house today, we have me, Jeff, and of course, Case Hoskins, as Daryl and Jared are out at L&N Federal Credit Union Stadium. What do they call it now? I'm not sure.
I'm I'm so glad people just call it L&N Stadium.
Is that what it is now? Okay.
Even U of L refers to it that way, and all the media partners. It's like, why even have given it the full name when everyone was just going to call it this?
Yeah. I mean, it's uh, that's probably the fifth name change for it, but okay, it's a football stadium, and they'll probably get their share of what 50,000 out there or so today, maybe more, maybe less, to see the
possibility of rain may knock those numbers down a little bit.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah.
They were advising last night on the news for if you were going to, and they were calling it Papa John's. Okay, well,
Yeah, a little out of date, but okay.
yeah,
Even the-
fine.
Even the video game has that right. Come on.
If you were going to the stadium, make sure and take your poncho. And
I don't know. That seems.
the only poncho I can think of is Poncho Wright, who played basketball for a little years ago. And he's probably got a date anyway for the game, so it doesn't really matter. Poncho will be there.
I always think that rain forecasts are funny. I'm looking at the weather right now. Today there's a 55% chance of thunderstorms, but there's a 30% chance at 3, and then a 25% chance of just rain for a few hours after that, and that's it. So I never really understand how the math works. The 55% chance that it will rain, and then there's some chance that it will rain at any of those times. Okay.
The whole meteorology and weather forecasting thing to me is just a kind of like I think it's just a big guess. You know, who can predict the wind? Who can predict what the sun's going to do in 5 hours from now?
Science can give us some idea, but it is it is uncertain. It is a huge, big system that is impossible to fully model and predict. So yeah.
It's like years ago, the old, and I remember this for some reason, but there used to be a forecaster for weather here in our city by the name of Tom Wills. It seemed like a nice guy and everything. I think he worked for a couple different TV stations here in Louisville, but I remember when he worked for Wave, okay, and he was taking calls one day, and he got this angry call from a caller. He said, "Tom, I just want to thank you. I shoveled a foot of partly cloudy off my fucking doorstep this morning." And yeah, he came in kind of hot on that one. And
So did you?
Yeah, well, I was just quoting Tom Wills.
Find the explicit button here.
Yeah, you might want to change our rating to
or edit it out. One of the two.
Yeah, you can go probably jump in there and do that, but
this is why I never check the suitable for children on the YouTube stream.
Jeff's
is live, so he doesn't have that.
I need a 7-second delay that apparently wasn't working Tuesday night. So
Well, now that we've opened that can of worms, let's just go ahead and no. I always like that the foot of partly cloudy, but so
that's a clever way of saying it. But yeah, I mean, okay, you think about the evening news. The weather people are the only people that are trying to predict the future. The rest of the people that are telling you about what has happened in the past. So, maybe cut them a little bit of slack there.
Maybe a little bit. I think in sports sometimes when you get some of the forecasters or sports guys on TV will try to predict what's going to happen the next day in the game too. Okay.
Okay. They may be a little bit, but mostly they're covering what has happened in the past.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's usually the way they work it. Uh, I used to talk to when I would run into him a lot. I don't run into him as much anymore, but Tom Lane, who has been over at the WDRB for God, what 80,000 years now, uh, long time, long time as being a sportscaster. And one of his favorite kind of things was saying this: "All I do is watch and report." He said it's the simplest job in the world. They make the news. All I do is just tell you what happened.
Mhm.
And when you break it down, yeah, that's pretty much the way it works. So,
Incidentally, I see Tom Wills fairly regularly. He is a season ticket holder for UofL volleyball.
oh, is he now? God,
Yeah, sits right across the aisle from me, down a few rows. Yeah,
he's got to be pushing what 80 now.
he is getting older. Certainly,
Yeah,
you know, he's still he is moving slower, but still moving, still coming out, still supporting, always cheering. Super gracious to people that recognize him and talk to him. So that remember him from being on the air. Yeah.
oh yeah, he was. Yeah, he was part of that classic crew that WAV had years ago,
Hmm.
where they had Melissa Forsythe and
Yeah.
Livingston Gilbert and Tom Wills and Bob Dominy, and they were just like
Yep.
the powerhouse of Louisville
My father
news.
worked at that station back in that era for a short period of time. Obviously this was not the career that my father went into, but he did have a job there for a little while doing stuff. So and knew Tom Wills. So yeah.
Yeah, they were quite the powerhouse. There's the other channels would try to come up with them, and which kind of we'll get into sports here in just a second, but
Hmm.
uh, I used to frequent a facility off of Baxter Avenue called the Phoenix Hill Tavern many
Hmm.
years ago, and walked in there one evening to kind of see what was shaking and happening. Single unattached, looking to see what was going to go on, and I saw the legendary WHAS newscaster Jim Mitchell, if you'll remember that name, sitting at the bar in the main tavern, just sitting there, and being jovial and such. I kind of walked up to him. I said, "Hey, Jim, what's going on?" And he goes, "There is no good news tonight." And I'm like, "Whoa, okay. Uh, Glad I could lighten your mood. I'm moving on." So anyway, yeah, they are human beings too. Don't forget that.
Yep.
And let's kind of get into some stuff that's been going on Louisville women's sports wise. Uh, After we talk to the guys here just a little bit, Jeff, your week so far, what's been shaking for you?
Hey, it's been a week. Tuesday night was a lot of fun. Get into that as we start talking about the volleyball, but it was late. It was certainly a late night. I will say that Wednesday morning, Jeff was very thankful to earlier in the week Jeff for deciding to take the day off, so that helped. Yeah, it's been a week. Otherwise, just kind of it is what it is. We got a taste of volleyball on Tuesday, and then have to wait until yesterday for any more of it. But it was good. It was a great event, a lot of fun Tuesday night. So
Certainly a big event held down there at the KFCM Center. Amazing. I think they said what they were 12,000 maybe.
the number I saw was lower than that. It was around 9,000.
Okay.
But yeah,
The lower bowl was completely packed though, from what I could tell.
depends on when you looked at it. As the night wore on, it got slimmer and slimmer.
Oh yeah, well certainly
I was
so.
As you
I
would
was
expect.
I was quite surprised by the number of people that were by how much emptier the seats were getting by the late third game. Because at that point you're looking at that third game was really close, and so it just was. It seemed like once you're in for a penny, in for a pound, right? Like once you've stayed up that late, because I think at that point it was already like almost 11:30 Eastern. I mean, once you're there,
About that. Mm-hmm.
like, come on, it's a close match. You just stick it out. So I was surprised to still see people like departing by that
Yeah,
point.
of course, keep in mind you still had a fair amount of Kentucky and Nebraska fans in there who were not as invested in that second match. Some may not have had that sort of, yeah, I'm going to stick this out to the end attitude. So, uh, there was at least, I'll go ahead and tell this story. There was at least one guy there that was shown on Jumbotron. He had probably one of the cleverest signs I've seen for a sporting event. And I think they showed it on TV as well. It's a you can't make bourbon without corn, right? Reference
It's
to
funny.
Kentucky
The
and the
Cornhuskers.
Midwest, right? Yeah, particularly Cornhuskers, but for Midwest in general.
Is he aware that we
Uh,
grow it here?
yeah,
Yeah,
uh,
we have bourbon
as it
trees.
as it turns out, I think it's Tyler Jeever. Is that his name? I think it's WLKY. Caught up with him right after he was shown on the jumbotron. He's not a fan of any of the four teams that are playing. He's from Hawaii. He just wanted to come watch good volleyball, and he
There
came
you
with a
go.
clever sign. So, good for him.
Absolutely, but yeah, that's a true volleyball aficionado, I guess.
hmm
Unless he had relatives here in
I
town.
mean,
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know if he was here already and just added this on to whatever reason he was here, or if he actually made the trip from Hawaii just to come to this event. If so, that's pretty impressive. So,
Especially when we got caught in the middle of a late August heat wave.
yeah, miserable weather.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was, and we're still in kind of the throes of that too, a little bit. I think there was 102 degrees. Wow,
Yeah, the other day, 102 degrees, and then the next day was 100 degrees. So it was
just
2 days in a row in triple digits.
days to stay indoors if all possible. Case, what's been going on with you this week, man?
Went over to St. Louis this week for just some internal meeting stuff. So it was not quite after midnight for me when I watched the end of the Louisville match. Got to watch it a little bit, like an hour later, but it was still hot there. Just don't get that mistaken. We thought about going to the baseball game on Tuesday, and then you could have gotten tickets for as little as $3 because it was 100 degrees outside, and the Cardinals are very bad. So we did not go.
St. Louis Cardinals.
Yes.
Yes.
St. Louis Cardinals. Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean,
the context
Louisville,
made that
Louisville
clear, but
baseball
just to be
Cardinals. I
sure.
mean, still to be
Yeah.
determined, right? So who knows? But yeah. So that's good. Had to do some construction site visit the next day and got a much later start to getting out there than we wanted. So it was getting pretty toasty on Wednesday at around noon Central, and we made it work. Only sweated a little bit, then made it back. But other than that, it was a good week. Got to watch the volleyball match, which was exciting. Watched part of the soccer game, which was less exciting. But all in all, not a terrible week for the Cards.
All in all, not a bad week for you then, as you got to do a little travel and got to go to the gateway to the west, as they like to call St. Louis, which I don't know, is it? Maybe not. Maybe the gateway to Missouri. I don't know. But as for self, it's kind of an uneventful week for me, really. Didn't have a whole lot happen to me that was earth shaking or newsworthy or anything like that. I did not get down to the VCA event. We had plenty of coverage down there, and I was content to watch it on TV and watch the delightful and delectable, of course, Katie George with her comments and news on it. It's such a fun time to see her on TV.
Yeah, I have always thought that Katie George and Eric Freed do really well together. So it's good to see them there. And then, of course, we also had the addition of Holly McPeak covering that. And Holly is obviously extremely knowledgeable. She was a very fine volleyball player in her time, and extremely.
Is she the bald one?
No,
she was the third, the other color commentator.
Yeah, the color.
Okay.
Yeah. The bald black woman is Christine Williamson, something like that.
I know Jen Hoffman was on there.
Jen Hoffman was there as well, which is always
Yeah,
nice.
she's beautiful, wonderful.
Uh,
But
yeah.
then
Had some mic issues.
Oh my
to
gosh, the
like,
the audio was terrible. I don't understand what was going
yeah,
on.
has the mics were cut out. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it was.
that's no bueno. Um, but yeah, they had sit down conversations also with Avery Skinner, who's former Kentucky, and then also Texas. But she was wearing Kentucky gear, as you might imagine, when she was there. And with Anna Stevenson's Anna Hall now. Uh, there, along with also there, but not shown on TV necessarily, was Tori Delfer Stringer. CC Rush was there. So yeah, several alumni there as well. Alumni.
I saw a video of Tori Dilfer Stringer on Instagram,
Yeah.
getting into Cardinal Arena while she was in town.
Oh yeah. She made some. She did show up. That's one of the cool things about with the alumni is that there are regulations about who's allowed to be part of practices with the teams, right? Specific practice players have to have certain eligibility, blah blah blah. But alumni are allowed to come and practice with them, right? So with their previous teams. So we've had Anna Stevenson, Tori's been in there. Iko Jones has been in there quite a bit until very recently. So it's a good opportunity for everybody. It keeps the the alumni who are now playing in the pros, gives them an opportunity to get in there and stay in game shape a little more in their off season. So it's good for everybody.
they also use and by the way, just to give everybody a kind of review, in case you didn't see it, if you missed it or something like that,
Oh, yeah.
in the first match, Nebraska and Kentucky faced off against each other. This was the 7 p.m. game, and the Cornhuskers kind of, I won't say, well, maybe they did dominate Kentucky. It was 25-21. Kentucky did come back and take the second set, 25-22. But then Nebraska came back out after halftime and kind of said, "Nah, we don't think so," and won the third set, 25-15, and the final set, 25-20. Uh, 3 sets to 1. Obviously, Nebraska, I think, hit almost 300 in this thing. It was pretty high up there. Kentucky was having some difficulties reaching the 200 mark and hitting. Just kind of showed us that maybe the preseason rankings were right. Maybe Nebraska is a much better team than Kentucky on the rankings. I think the Cats were ninth, if I was not mistaken, and Nebraska up
Yes.
there, I think second or third or something like that.
Second.
Maybe second because
Wisconsin.
Nebraska.
Wisconsin was
Yeah,
third.
okay.
Yeah.
But they were able to do that. We've got a bit of a write up on it, a Cardinal couple for that one, and certainly the match of the evening in our city, what we were most concerned of was the 9 p.m. match that actually started, I would
Let's
say,
put some
about
air quotes on that 9 p.m.
yeah, uh, suggested that it would start at 9 p.m. 9 p.m. kind of came and went in. 9:30 turned into 9:45 when they were finally playing, but I guess that can happen sometimes. Whatever. I mean, you have to give the teams proper time to warm up after the first match and all that good stuff. But Louisville came out, did not look sharp in the first set, as Wisconsin won that one 25-18 over the Cards. But Louisville got it back together, came back and won the second set 25-17. They went to the break. The third set was a very, very thrilling third set. Louisville won this one in a bit of overtime, 26-24, and then took the final game 25-20, a 3-1 win for the Cards over number 3 Wisconsin. Louisville, I think, number 6 going into that poll by the AVCA. And so certainly, I think a very encouraging thing for the Cards to start out the season with a win like that. I know that as far as the way they looked, I think the players that we all kind of expected to stand up stood up. Anna DeBeer looked very good out there for the Cards, obviously, and played
Yeah.
quite well.
Her offense was a
I
little
see.
rough.
All right, guys, I see you've got a different take on it. Go ahead with it.
I
Yeah, go ahead.
no, you were the one, Jeff. You were there, and you were.
Yeah, no, I will say that Anna played a good game. She contributed well. Her offense was struggling. I think at one point she was hitting a negative percentage. I don't know what she ended up with
She
in
finished
the
negative.
end.
026.
She finished negative, only slightly though, right?
Yeah, 026.
Yeah. Okay. So more errors than kills. That's obviously not what you want to see in a game. But she found a way to contribute in many other ways in the match. She was good on defense, good all around. I think a really kind of a step up in her. She's always been a good all around full rotation player, but I think she really kind of stepped up on that and played some really good defense digs and stuff like that. And of course, it's just a presence on the court, regardless of what she's actually doing herself. So, but yeah, I would be wary of saying that she did super well. I don't think it was her best outing, but
16 digs, second most on the team.
yeah,
She allowed the only ace from Wisconsin. She had a service error, which that is what it is. Serve receive for both teams was awful, or serve and serve receive for both teams was just
yeah.
wild.
Service
20
errors were
26 total service errors.
Oh,
Yeehaw.
yeah.
But like you said, she
There
finished
was
with 10 kills.
one stretch where there were 4 straight service errors, 2
Yeah,
on each team.
just back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. She finished with 10 kills, 11 errors. A fair number of those were blocks. Wisconsin had 14 blocks compared to Louisville's 10. So yeah, Anna did well, but she was not. She wasn't necessarily the standout that we'd hope to see. But that's partly because Wisconsin was keying on her.
Sure.
They had a game plan. The game plan was be 6'10" and block everything that Louisville tried to hit over the net. To some extent, it worked.
Yeah.
There were certainly some
I mean,
very, very tall girls on that side of the net.
If they could have hit it over the net and within the lines,
Yeah.
it would have been different. I mean,
Yeah, they do. They to be serious, they do have 2 players that are 6'9", Anna Smrek being one of them. But I liked what one of the things that Katie called out on the telecast, right? You can be 6'9" and notionally the idea there is you're hitting over the defense and over the block. But like she was hitting balls into the tape, right? If you're hitting it into the tape, you're not hitting over the block, right? Um, and to be fair, when you're 6'9", your vertical is probably not as high typically as someone who is shorter can get more explosive jump off of it. But when you have 5'9" Charity Looper going up against a 6'9" Anna Smrek and absolutely roofing her, okay. Maybe you could work on the way you're approaching that attack a little bit. So
yeah, and it was unusual, I think, and they talked about it on the broadcast a lot, that because of the height advantage that Wisconsin had, if they end up coming back and winning that fourth set, I don't think that Louisville had a chance in the fifth, because Louisville was just running out of gas. I mean, you saw 3 players on the floor with cramps at the same time, and because of Wisconsin's height advantage, they didn't, like you said, they don't have to jump out of the gym to impact Louisville's play. And because of Louisville's athleticism, they were able to, get some points on the slide. They were able to get over Wisconsin. They were able to get up to block Wisconsin a fair amount, and that was starting to tail off.
Yeah, and they were running out of chewing gum to cause delays.
Yeah. We did get to see Elena Scott, athletic trainer.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was fun.
Yeah,
she can do anything, man. I'm telling you.
And the gum incident. Yeah, we were of course joking around and blaming Jared for that, but he did not fess up to it. So we don't know how the gum got there. Was
I
it
mean, cheers seriously though for Beckett Petkovich, though. Was jumping out there, and the commentators, and Katie obviously knows him, and Eric has certainly seen him a lot with the coverage he's done of games here, of matches here. That getting out there and really going above and beyond, pulling somebody else's gum up off the floor, salute to the kid.
And then didn't go wash his hands. I think that if it hadn't been for somebody specifically offering the hand sanitizer.
And that was Jen Hoffman, by the way, that did that.
Oh yeah, if it hadn't been Jen Hoffman offering the hand sanitizer, I don't think that it would have. He would have just gone with the wiping it off in the Gatorade water and calling it a day, which is a choice.
Well, at least he didn't pop it into his mouth and start chewing on it.
Yeah.
That would have been. It still got flavor on it. Yeah. But yeah, it's certainly obviously a late night in downtown Louisville with that whole match and stuff. I think. Well, Jeff, what time did you finally roll out of there? Close to 12:30, I guess, maybe.
That final Anna De Beer block for match point occurred at 12:01.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so made it home 12:45. Something like that. By the time you get
the usual.
The good thing about everybody leaving is you didn't have to contend with a ton of traffic.
Right. Yeah. So it was not too bad getting out. You just kind of, we parked in the LG garage across Main Street, so there was a little bit of a walk to get over there, but we, pulled out pretty directly and got home fairly directly. Maybe 12, maybe even a little before 12:45. So not bad.
If you take a chance to check out Cardinal Couple, Jared's got some great photos in his write-up that he did kind of a Thursday review of his thoughts on the AVCA, which he was calling the ACVA earlier in the week, but we had to correct him on that.
I think he just had the one typo in the title.
And, I can remember it being Ava, as in avocado. But anyway, that's how I keep it straight. American Volleyball Coaches Association.
Which, by the way, is headquartered in Lexington.
Yes, it is.
That. Yeah.
I had the honor and privilege one time when we were up at the Kentucky Louisville volleyball match up there in Memorial Coliseum to sit next to the executive director of the AVCA, a very nice lady who, and I've got her card somewhere, and I want to say her last name is DeBoer, but I'm not positive on that. I can't remember back that far, but sat and talked with her quite a long time and enjoyed the conversation. And she was quite interested in the fact that I ran a women's sports website. And it was all full of questions about what we talked about and what we covered. And of course, we had fun watching the match as well. Even though she was like the executive director of the AVCA, she did have a Kentucky bias, lived in Lexington, and certainly had moved to Lexington, I think, from somewhere out in the Midwest. But when she got made the executive director, still had a Kentucky bias, was cheering for the Cats pretty heavily. But understand, that facility has undergone quite a bit of change up there, guys. From what I'm talking about, hearing Memorial Coliseum has had like $12 million worth of renovations. Can anybody talk on that a little further? I think that's very interesting.
They replaced the seats. I think they might have done some HVAC upgrades. I'm trying to think of what else they've done in there. It's not. I mean, it's not been some big flashy upgrade. $12 million in the construction industry does not get you as far as people think it does these days. But yeah, I know they had some projects to replace the seats. I know they had some HVAC renovation projects. I think lighting upgrades. So it'll be. They probably did a facelift, slightly, but
they had air conditioning.
Right, that's what it. Yeah.
Yeah, that seemed. Sorry, my audio kind of cut out a little bit there. So.
So that's the major change.
Yeah.
And
This is
that's
the
where a
big
lot of the
win.
money would have gone, right? So
That was the very needed part. I am dumbfounded that, as you said, they replaced the seats, right?
mhm.
But there's
Yep.
still benches, still
Yeah.
bleachers in a lot of it. I'm like, really? If you're going to replace, yeah. Anyway,
Well, I mean, it's still
whatever.
bleachers in a lot of Rupp Arena.
Yeah, true. The upper deck. Yeah.
I've sat in those bleachers before. Back when my late mother-in-law was still with us and such, we took her to Lexington for a day to dine out and also to go to the match. There was a volleyball match that day in Louisville, Kentucky, and that was back in the days when I was doing a little bit of drinking here and there, maybe more than I do now, and had smuggled in a pint of bourbon with me. And so was way up in these bleachers and watching the match and pouring things into cups for me and her and Sonia, with lots of soft drink for them. And we got near the end of the bottle, and I was handing it back to Sonia to put back in her purse, and it slipped. And at that point in time in the arena, it was completely quiet. Something was going on. And all you heard resonating throughout the entire arena was this clink, 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 clink as it fell and then rolled down and landed on the steps below. And about 8 million eyes turned around and stared at where they heard the sound come from. And I immediately stared at the guy next to me, trying to divert any possible reference to me. But yeah, that's
My experience with the bleachers in Rupp Arena in the upper deck was sitting in the second to last row in the end zone for the semifinal games of the 1985 Final Four,
oof.
which, if you remember, was the year that Villanova won. And I went with my mother to that, and then my brother and my father went to the finals. Of course, then my brother in later years ends up at Temple University in Philadelphia doing his PhD work and realizes that you can get a little bit of notoriety in the area by saying that you were at that final game when Villanova beat Georgetown. That, like, just a little bit of kind of reflected glory for Philadelphians.
Certainly great occasions that have happened for us in our
Yeah.
histories and such. But yeah, so yeah, look good then. I think for Louisville volleyball, they have Tennessee today. Is that correct, Jeff?
Tomorrow,
Tomorrow, playing them tomorrow, and
Jinx.
that's
4
yeah,
p.m. Down again at downtown at the KFC Yum Center. Video on ECC Network Extra. No, ESPN2.
oh, getting another TV match in like that. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So maybe, I don't know who we've got for coverage on that. I saw that the other day, but
Well, certainly going with the hot hand. So not a bad call there by ESPN to
Yeah.
give that one a shake and see what happens with it as the cards will look to go to beating the Vols in volleyball. Like I played that one off. The other things that have been kind of happening and going on, we'll look at briefly a bit too. Well, final thoughts on volleyball first, guys. Anything else that you want to kind of bring in about this and talk about?
obviously it's a great start for UofL. The first entry in the Volley Talk upsets thread for the year, so that was kind of fun. For us to be sixth and knock off number 3, there was some chatter among a lot of the Volley Talk people, particularly, but beyond that, even about why was Louisville sixth, particularly behind Stanford. And certainly, I think some of that chatter has proven to have solid basis, as Stanford struggled last night. They won in 3, but they struggled with it to beat Milwaukee. So hardly a powerhouse there, but yeah, great start. Good to see that good start because man, it's an aggressive schedule.
Yeah, I don't. When you got top 10 matchups in the first, or even top 15 to some extent, in the first week or two of play, I don't fully buy into things being upsets. Unless it's 15-1, right? Because
Yeah.
then that's a big miss. But like 3-6, you're like, it's not really an upset. We didn't know anything about the teams. We just
Yeah,
kind of
that's
voted them.
fair. That's fair.
Looks like tomorrow it will be Paul Sunderland, Jennifer Hoffman.
Oh, okay, I make a good team as well.
So
Yeah,
it just lists those two. Doesn't say anything about a court reporter or anything like
Yeah,
that.
may not have one. They frequently don't.
As long as they keep Holly in her blue dress off the court, we're all fine. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with that for the Cards going up against the Vols. And other activities that have happened in recently in Louisville fall women's sports, of course, women's soccer been active lately. They were off on their first of two games up in the northern Kentucky, Cincinnati area. When Thursday night they went to play Cincinnati and drew against Cincinnati as a 1-1 final on that one. It's the second tie of the year for the Cards. Case, some of your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, we're 5 matches in and Louisville's undefeated. I don't. We talked a lot at the beginning, or when the schedule came out, that we're going to learn from this first set of matches, and the draw against New Hampshire was less than ideal. But this draw against Cincinnati, I don't think it's terrible. Obviously, you'd like to win, but Cincinnati's been a tough go for the Cards. And this was on the road. Cincinnati lost to Central Michigan on the road earlier this week, last Sunday. They've got wins over Murray and Toledo, so they haven't really been tested until that Louisville match. So it's hard to say too much about it, but Louisville scored first. Not very long that they got to celebrate. A couple, or about 12 minutes. Cincinnati tied it up in the second half there. All in all, not a ton to say. Certainly not the offense that we've seen from Louisville in the first few games. They only managed to get 5 shots. 3 of those were on target. Cincinnati had 10 shots. Only 3 of those on target, but they were definitely the more active team in the offensive third. So that's not what we've seen from Louisville recently. It's also a little concerning. They've been susceptible to giving up breakaway opportunities. Cincinnati was really exploiting that to the detriment of Louisville's defense. It was a scary moment in the second half. Late in the second half, it looked like Carson Cherry was in severe pain after a tackle by Cincinnati player. Fortunately, she was able to get up, able to continue in the match. So no heavy loss sustained there. At the end of the day, it would have been nice if Louisville could have gotten some more offense, could have scored one more, but you're also glad that they didn't give up a late winner from Cincinnati. So, they bounced back after, or not bounce back, but they tried to make things a little nervy earlier in the week against NKU, but ultimately were able to take care of business. So yeah, it'd be nice to see Louisville play a little bit better from the lead. They've given up a goal while leading in almost all of their matches so far. So just some unfortunate slips of judgment and a little bit of don't know if lackadaisical is the right word, but a little bit of a lapse defensively when playing from ahead, which you shouldn't do when you're only up by 1 goal, especially. You shouldn't do it really ever. A 2-0 lead is, or 2-goal lead is often considered the most dangerous in soccer because all it takes is one, and then you're on the back foot and can immediately give up the second. So, um, yeah, that's pretty much my thought. I would like to see more on the offensive end, and then not so much relaxation on defense while leading. I am encouraged that Louisville has continued to score. They didn't waste all those goals against Bellarmine to start the season, so um, they're able to get the ball forward. They're able to put the ball in the net. Uh, just need to be a little crisper on defense. We're returning 3 of our two defensive starters, and then a third of those, a third starter is not new to this team, just new to the starting lineup in that position. So, I'd like to see a little bit more resolve from that back four. But at the end of the day, like I said, still undefeated after 5. So
The term Floyd on Floyd came up the other night, and I'm thinking to myself, what in the world does that mean? And of course, I had to think of it. The Cards goalkeeper is Aaron Floyd, and she plays her home matches at Lynn Stadium on Floyd Street. So Floyd on Floyd. And Jeff, she hasn't done a bad job this year, really. I mean, she had 2 saves against the Bearcats up there. She's been adequate at the position, I think.
Yeah, no complaints. To some degree, we've been, we talked, again, we talked preseason about how the beginning of the schedule of this non-conference slate is not particularly challenging. Not a top of the line strength of schedule going on here. So, it's good for the Cards to be able to get out ahead, and that also means that you're much more in control of the ball, gets it back into our side of the field much less often. So players like Aaron Floyd and the back row players, defenders are going to be tested less when you have that sort of play going on. We'll see how she does as we get into conference play and we get into some stronger competition. I expect her to do well. I think she's a very fine goalkeeper, but I kind of feel like she hasn't really been extensively tested this season yet. She has in the past and has done quite well, so I don't have a problem with it. I don't have any concerns, but yeah, she's doing great so far.
She kind of had that one little stutter step. I think it was against New Hampshire when she didn't quite get out there in time, and the player was able to kick it right by her into the goal. But other than that, yeah, doing a fine and adequate job back there. I think for the Cards back at goalkeeper. And guys, when you take a look at this team, in past years, there's always been kind of a player that we can kind of point to and go, yeah, that's the superstar. Going back to Charlene Corral years ago, and then going, of course, most recently to Amina. But there's really not a player like that on this year's team, is there?
Well, I think not offensively, but Carson Cherry is definitely doing her job. She's the captain. She's the center defender. She leads the team in goals, tied with Amber Jackson with 3 goals apiece. She's leading the team in minutes. Lizzie Sexton leads the team in minutes. And that even includes goalkeepers, which is kind of funny. Not usually something that happens, but we've seen a lot more run from Kaylee Kimball than I expected at this point. But Carson Cherry is doing a very good job. She actually has 6 shots already. 5 of those are on frame. So, when you're talking about a center defender, she's going to be getting up there on set pieces, corners, and to put 5 of her 6 opportunities so far on frame, 3 of those in the goal. That's what you're looking for. We saw it from Sarah Hernandez. She did not get nearly as many opportunities, but when she got opportunities, they were almost always on target. Cherry is always kind of in the right spot. And sometimes she's not able to recover quite as quickly. I think that Hernandez was a little more conservative into how far up she would push, and not try to stay kind of in the realm for as many second chance opportunities. But Louisville has done a pretty good job rotating so far, albeit against not the strongest competition. But I think that if there's anybody that would stand out as the most valuable player so far, it would be um, Cherry. But Brooke Dardano is also certainly trying to make a case for that. She has 5 assists already. She has the third most minutes on the team, just 5 fewer than Cherry in her new starting position as, if I get my orientation right, left back. So, um, yeah, the defense has been doing a good job offensively. uh, see a little bit more out of the defense defensively would be good. But yeah, I think that there are some players that are definitely trying to make some names for themselves, and offensively, we just need to see. Giggs is trying to get there. She's got 2 goals and an assist already. Mackenzie Geigley, um, Amber Jackson, I think is filling the striker role very well, but she's not necessarily somebody that you're like, if you put the ball at the front, she's going to score it. Maybe she gets there as they get more comfortable as a team. And then I think Lauren Contini is trying to become a new super freshman. But that's a little bit yet to be determined. So, yeah, I mean, it's exciting. And the teams we play are going to get tougher. And so we'll see how the Cards handle it. But I'm certainly more encouraged than I was optimistic to start the season.
And that's a good thing. It's a good thing. When our soccer expert is happy, then that's a good thing. And encouraged is the word. Cardinal will be bringing in Evansville for a 7 p.m. start. This will be on Sunday. Evansville was this team that's 1-1 on the season. How about that? They started the season after a couple exhibition games with a tie against Lipscomb, playing Lipscomb in Evansville, and then going on the road to face Western Kentucky in Bowling Green, but unfortunately taking a loss to the Toppers there, 1-4. And then their final outing, they brought in Lindenwood, and 5 points for anybody who can tell me where Lindenwood is.
Hopefully, someplace with a lot of trees.
Oh, it's in Missouri, right?
I have no clue.
I'm pretty sure because I think I looked it up whenever lacrosse played there last year.
St. Charles, St. Louis, Missouri.
There you go. So now we know where Lindenwood is. They were able to defeat Lindenwood 2-1 in their last outing. So 1-1 as they take on the Cards after Louisville. It's kind of a tough stretch for them. They will play Louisville on Sunday and then have to turn around and go to Bloomington to play Indiana on Thursday. So certainly high marks for them for scheduling heavy. Certainly we'll see what happens for the Cards on this one as they will get ready to try to defeat the. I guess they go by the Purple Aces as well. I've always associated that nickname with the basketball team because of the mascot was just kind of like a riverboat gambler with the high top hat and everything.
I think it is their overall mascot. So okay. Yeah, it would be.
Yes. Yeah, that's correct.
Purple Aces. Well,
yeah,
that's certainly an interesting one. But
yeah, it's up there as far as unusual mascots.
And of course, they also earlier in the season played St. Louis, and St. Louis, of course, having the Billikens, which I always thought was an interesting kind of creature there indeed. So let's see if the Cards can beat one over on the Purple Aces. Moving on, taking a look at some of the other things that have been going on. I did want to give maybe just a little bit of time if we could today to field hockey and talk a little bit about how the Cards are progressing there. They had an exhibition kind of start to the season where they came out. Obviously, when they come in and play an exhibition against Bellarmine, it's okay. Bellarmine is a D1 program now, but not quite on the level, talent wise and recruiting wise, as Louisville is. The Cards took that one 7-0. Then a couple of days later, made the trip up to scenic IU up in Bloomington. Played in an exhibition up there, and we had the dickens of a time trying to get any results on this one, guys. But finally did come up with it because Louisville was SID, had no clue. I finally found it on
Yeah,
Stat Tracker.
she didn't make the trip at all, right? So
She
was
didn't
not
go.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She goes, Paul, I don't know. All I know is I think we won, but I'm not positive. I haven't heard anything out of Justine yet. Okay. Well,
I'm surprised it was on Stat Tracker.
actually, it was Stat Broadcast. I'm sorry, not Stat Tracker.
Well, I mean, either way, I'm surprised that someone was keeping stats.
Yeah, for exhibitions, you don't normally see that either. But IU did, and the Cards did win at 5-4. And then, of course, started the regular season last night. A trip to Maryland to play up there, and unfortunately, in double overtime, fell to the Terps 2-1. Uh, you've got to kind of look at this one and ruefully scratch your head and saying, well, you hate to start the season, I go with a loss, but we were playing actually with the number 3 or 4 team in the nation. Pretty good start, huh?
Yeah, and did so very competitively to make it to a double overtime,
And did indeed. Yeah. To take this one to 2 when they go to the.
And again, field hockey in overtime goes down to 7 players aside to try to increase the chance of scoring. So, to go through one overtime period, still scoreless, and then make it into that second one for the golden goal. But it's it's a good outing ultimately for them. Obviously, you would have preferred to see the win, but you can't complain too much about that.
I will be a little more alarmist knowing that we scored 5 against IU, albeit in an exhibition. The offense was almost non-existent for Louisville in this match.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's true when you look at the stats case.
They got 4 total shots, 3 on frame. All 3 that were on frame came in the second period, and all 3 that were on frame came in about a 5-minute stretch. So after that 5 minutes, before and after that 5-minute stretch, Louisville just had no opportunities in the offensive end, which, like I said, it seemed like, okay, they're just playing a strong defensive Maryland team. But when they're coming off of scoring 5 goals in an exhibition against a not pushover IU team, just not sure where they went, where the offense went. And maybe it is just that Maryland's defense is very good, but if that's the case, Maryland is very good because their offense was also fully on display with 13 total shots and 8 on target. So shout out to Brandy Lynn Heinball in her first official game as a Cardinal, being called to task for 6 saves. Just need a little bit more help from the offense.
As Justine's kind of gotten into a thing, and I don't know, ever since I think the days where she would have a goalkeeper come in for 4 years and do the work. Lately, it's been a 5th-year transfer that's come in and did it the last couple of years. Brandon Lynn, I think, was it James Madison? If I'm not mistaken, you guys can check me on that. I want to say James Madison.
Last school, James Madison, yes.
Yeah, making her first start for Louisville. And, it was just one of those deals when you lose. I think, as I saw it, 7 of your 11 starters from last year. That's maybe kind of a situation where you're in a rebuild. And the Cards have got plenty of talent on the team. There's no doubt about that. But anytime you've got to replace, conservatively 2/3 of your starting lineup. It's a little rough row there, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's true in any sport in any program, that, and no different here. When you replace that many people, it's not just how do you find the personnel with the talent to replace the offensive scoring or the defensive stopping. You're also trying to integrate into a new team and that culture and create that bond that teams do much better when they have that available. So it's always tricky, and they're going to struggle with that many, replacing that many players.
Certainly so. But Louisville, of course, will be a good team this year, I think, and bounce back okay from that. Anytime you lose such a close, hard fought game. Let's face it, this was almost to a shootout stage.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're just over a minute away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a minute 34 or something like that to play before it would have gone to shootout. And when you think about it and kind of just put that into perspective, you're going, wow, we're playing top five teams like this already. That's good. That's a start, especially when we're supposedly rebuilding.
Well, and they played 58 seconds, not in a tied position.
Yeah,
In the whole game.
The whole game.
Yeah.
Louisville scored 58 seconds later. Maryland scored. The other 77 and a half minutes, it was tied. I mean,
wow.
it was tense. That's a tense game to be playing in, especially, you're bringing in a new grad transfer keeper. A lot of your team is new to the starting lineup, and you're saying, okay, Maryland is peppering us offensively. Hold it together. Don't give up another goal, and they don't. For however long, and then finally Maryland wore down and got a good offensive set in that golden goal overtime, and were able to get the score. But it was an impressive outing against a top team, like, on the road in your first real game of the season, with everything we're saying about the roster turnover. It's just unfortunate that the offense couldn't get across the finish line.
Certainly something Justin will be working on, for sure. And tomorrow they will get the opportunity to test it again as they will take on American University. And we'll be playing them on their home field in Washington, D.C. as the American squad 0-1 on the season. They began their season playing Virginia Commonwealth, an opponent that the Cards are quite well familiar with. That one went to 2 overtimes before they lost 1-0 to Virginia Commonwealth. So we'll see if the trend holds, whether they keep the Cards to fewer, not many scores in their contest. But certainly Louisville will try to break out and see if they can get some goals up against American. Should be a fun one. Was looking here. There, Americans also going to play in the Terrapin Invitational, which would lead me to believe that that's something that Maryland might be hosting, especially in College Park, Maryland.
No other Terrapins I'm aware of.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not that I know of.
Again, not a very common mascot.
But they're actually playing Lock Haven, and I've never heard of Lock Haven in women's field hockey before. So maybe you guys can see where they're at. It sounds like a nice little retirement home to me.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens for them. Justine certainly got a squad that we'll love to watch, and certainly try to get out and catch a few games this year over at Traeger. Always fun to do that, and always good to be up in that press box. And certainly,
Lock Haven University is located, shockingly, in the town of Lock Haven, Pennsylvania.
They, whenever you click on the link of Lockhaven in the American University's schedule, it takes you to Maryland's website for some reason.
Let's see.
Well,
Lockhaven, Pennsylvania is in the middle of nowhere.
Buddy.
Northwest of Harrisburg.
They
That's
got
best I can say.
they got absolutely dusted by Syracuse to open the season.
Yeah.
Like bad. They lost 9-0. Syracuse had 19 shots, 13 of them were on frame.
oh my goodness.
Lockhaven had no shots.
Seriously.
Lockhaven got one corner. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, it's kind of a beatdown.
That's a tough one to bounce back from. Yeah. What do you say to your team after one like that? Okay, this one's behind us. Tear off the rearview mirror. Don't look back.
Yeah.
That's
about it.
They get to play Temple next. Let's see if they can have a better.
Temple has had good teams in field hockey over the years too. I'm not sure what kind of swing they're on this year, but certainly could be a fun one. The Cards, of course.
Lockhaven is in the A10. If you could have given me a million guesses,
no, I never would have guessed that.
Nope, wouldn't have thought that.
Yeehaw.
Wow. Yeah, that would have stumped the whole band. I think no one would have got that one. I would have thought AAC maybe.
I wouldn't have guessed AAC. I would have guessed not D1.
Yeah.
You don't hear about them in any other sport.
Okay, they participate in the A10 in field hockey, but they also have the MAC logo here, so they participate in the MAC in some other sports.
Okay. Indeed, and you don't see that a whole lot anymore. You used to, where a school would have teams in various conferences, but with the kind of unified and coagulating of conferences these days, you don't see it as much as you used to.
Yeah, you still see it a little bit where the school plays a sport that is not available in that conference. Like I think
the SEC still doesn't sponsor men's soccer.
Right, that's where I was going. Kentucky men's soccer team is what, Conference USA? Yeah, because SEC doesn't have it.
To me. How could the SEC not sponsor soccer?
Yeah,
they do women's soccer. I mean, it's a Title IX thing. They have other sports instead of men's soccer.
The conferences don't have.
Yeah, there happens to be a football bouncing around out there somewhere, and the SEC sure loves that.
Well, but the conference doesn't have to adhere to the Title IX, but the schools are more, and the conference is going to follow suit with the more. They're going to sponsor the more popular or the more numerous, I guess, sports.
Yeah.
For most of the schools.
So hopefully the Cards will be on their roll and be able to take their win and move on. But guys, we're rolling up on it here, and we reached the witching hour, as they like to say, except it's daytime, where it's time to we get into some final thoughts. Start us out this week, Case. Final thoughts.
Sure. Kind of a twofer. The first one would be, if you're going to plan to play a doubleheader in volleyball on the same court,
more than 2 hours.
Don't start the first one at 7:00. I mean, that's just, I don't know. Especially considering that both of the opposing teams were Central Time. It's not even like we were playing any Pacific Coast teams in this event. So that was a weird choice. I guess they're like, well, we want the Stanford people to watch. We want Oregon to watch. Like, whatever. They should have started it earlier. Starting at 6 would have been, I think, a fine choice. But that's neither here nor there. The second thing, we'll go back to the goalkeeper situation for Louisville field hockey. I think COVID really screwed up our goalkeeper situation. Sam Minrath was supposed to step into that role. She suffered from long COVID symptoms. Ended up, I think, ultimately, more or less ending her playing career. 2021, you saw her backing up officially backing up Mila de Kaiser, who then departed the program. So after that, Lobos run out a grad transfer goalkeeper every year. Haven't been able to kind of bring in that next player to build up, and so yeah, it's interesting. We'll see if that can change in the next cycle, but yeah, I think that really threw the team through salary and the roster building threw them off track quite a bit at that position, and it's unfortunate, but we'll still just hope for a good season here from Pineball.
And it was Sam, if I'm not mistaken here, Jeff, that actually did a painting in a tavern we've been to before.
Yep. Her father is one of the owners of Third Turn Brewery in J-Town and in Crestwood. They have a couple of locations, and she's done several actually murals on some of the walls as decor for their facilities.
She always painted her own helmets too.
Yeah, she always painted her own helmets. She was an art major and quite a good artist. Yeah.
Final thoughts from you, Jeff?
Yeah, just obviously, me. I'm happy to have volleyball back. Tomorrow is one of the seven total matches that we'll be playing in the KFC Yum Center this year in the regular season. Who knows how many beyond that? Certainly will be, almost certainly will be more. And looking forward to Tennessee, and then heading up the road to Northern Kentucky for a weekend next weekend. And in addition to 3-day work week, that's nice. Taking Friday off, so.
Yeah, certainly so. Sounds like some fun for you up there for that. As far as me, final thoughts, I'm gonna just kind of say it's obviously today for Louisville and a lot of other schools. It's the start of the college football season. This will be the second season in a row that I have not had season tickets for that, and based on a number of issues, basically I had a large group of tickets at one time that dwindled down to just 5 people going, and then when 3 of them decided that they didn't want to return 2 years ago, I decided that I would not as well. Do I miss it? Yes, but I also do not miss getting up at 7 a.m. to get things prepared and ready to go out and tailgate for 4 hours for a noon start. I don't miss that at all. I don't miss having to fight the traffic of leaving the stadium after games have completed at L&N. And as the years went by, I found myself basically getting less and less interested in the actual sport of football, which to me was kind of aggro because I played the game. And women's sports have won me over, I guess. So, in any event, best of luck to the football Cards today. They're taking on the Governors, being Austin P. And I think that one may have already started, so y'all can go over and catch that. I think probably on the ACC network if you want to. But certainly, let's hope that the women's sports teams for Louisville do well this year and this weekend as well. So I want to thank everybody for listening. Have yourself a great rest of the weekend. And as always, go Cards.